coaching. Kunoa coaching.
Well, hi everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Kuno podcast. I'm your host, Marie Oldfield, and we've got Naomi with us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you, and thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm super happy to be here. Excited for the conversation.
Would you like to kind of introduce yourself to our listeners and tell them a bit about what you do and how you got there?
So what I do, I'm a life coach. I like to say that I help people be happy with their life. I think that's the best description of my work. And I do this through having conversation with them and listening to what is difficult for them in that specific moment, and then trying to see it from a different perspective or question that thing to see if it's really true or not. And how I got there, I'm just grateful that I got there, or it came to me. I didn't have a plan. I did many different jobs before, and my interest was always in others, how I can better understand what their experience is and what does it teach me about myself, so that I can be a better person for myself, to enjoy my life more, but also to have better relationship with the people around me. And I started doing this at the university, where I studied ancient Greek and history. So I would look at people's lives in the past and learn from them. And then I realized that this is very interesting, but it's completely disconnected from my actual life. Like when I leave the university, I go to the grocery shop, I buy food there, and there is someone working at the cashier. And if what I study cannot help this person have a better life, then what's the point? And so I decided to quit the university, and my professor was very unhappy. He said, I don't believe in those decisions that you made, because you just had an idea and that's it. And I said, well, I'm sorry that you're not happy, but I have to. It's like, for my own happiness, I have to follow what is right for me. So I had no idea what I would do after, but I just knew I couldn't stay in that environment. And finally, I became a paramedic, and all, like, my family, my friends were looking at me and like, what? You were studying ancient Greek and history, and now you're going to drive an ambulance and try and save people's lives? So what's this? And I said, well, I see the logic. I will be there and help someone at a specific moment in their life, and I'll bring the skills that I will learn at the paramedic school, but also who I am as a person and my ability to listen and to help with the emotions, not just provide the technical things, but be there and consider them as a complete human being and not just someone who's got a broken leg. So I did that for many years. I loved it. It has taught me so many things. It's one of the most beautiful jobs in the world, I think. It's also very unhealthy. And that's why after a few years, I decided, okay, now I need to take a break. It's also the way I was working in Switzerland, the way it's organized there, it doesn't, there's no possibility for career growth. So that was a bit frustrating. And then all this together, and a few different events after that, and I find myself in Finland in the middle of a startup campus, in doing some kind of a community management job. And I was seeing all those entrepreneurs, and I'm like, wow, those people, they create food out of air, and it's just magic, this energy that they have. But then they burn out because they don't know how to stop. They don't know how to set clear boundaries. They have great marketing plans, but they don't have the mindset that goes with it. So it doesn't work. So I started seeing that there was something that I could do. And then when I moved to London in May 2020, and I arrived in that city that I couldn't recognize, it was like empty, and I had to figure out a new job. And I thought, well, what am I going to do now? And then I realized that thing that I had been doing for years with my colleagues in the different jobs, which was to listen to them and give advice and say, well, I have tried this for myself. It has helped me a lot. If you try it, maybe it's going to help you too. And that thing was called coaching. And I said, okay, I will I will see what happens, and that's going to be my job. And I'm so grateful I didn't have to think about it, because I don't think I would have been able to formulate that thing clearly in my mind. But because I was already doing it, then it was easy to realize that, okay, this activity and this description, they match together. Then there are some people don't like the word coaching. You can use many different words, but it's convenient. It still describes what I do, and that's how it started.
Wow, so that's a journey and a half there. I was really interested what you were talking about in terms of entrepreneurs, because at the minute everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. It seems there's so many people trying to start businesses. When you talk about marketing and mindset and kind of that kind of social aspect of things, and you talk about mindset around that and entrepreneurs struggling with it, what are the kind of main challenges that you see in that area?
I think it's when people become entrepreneurs, then there is this fusion between me and my job, me and my company, which is, on the one hand, it's just normal, because when we begin, it's one person with one ID. Sometimes it's one person who provides the service, and that's it. Sometimes there is a team around with the product, but it's still very much I'm my business and my business is me. And there, this, I think it triggers something where oftentimes we become confused, like, what is my worth? What is the worth of my business or my service or my product? And how much do I charge? And if something goes wrong, maybe it means that I'm a wrong or a bad person. So this confusion, I think it's the main challenge, because it prevents people from stating a fee that they feel aligned with. So, and especially in the coaching industry, there are so many coaches who coach for free, which is nice if you've decided that this is my contribution and I want to support people and I'm going to offer, I don't know how many sessions for free, but oftentimes it's not the case. It's because they feel uncomfortable, because they don't see that they are like they think they are completely identified with their business, with their service. And so I think doing the work of disidentifying oneself with what we're doing, then it helps to make decisions that are based on something that is much more objective and aligned, rather than a fear of being rejected or a fear of asking too much or taking too much space. And then I don't know about those, I'm not sure about the generality, but maybe for women it's even more difficult, because there is also this social conditioning that you shouldn't ask for too much, whereas we actually don't ask for money when we sell a product or a service. We just say, this is what I'm offering you and this is how much it costs, and if you're interested, then we can have a conversation, and if not, then we can have a conversation about something else, and that's it. But I think for women sometimes it's even more challenging, and it comes from this identification between me and my business. And I would say that's maybe the dark side of it, but the good side of it is that when we start working on this, if we have a healthy founder, then the business is going to be healthy as well. So it's possible to use this, the positive side of this identification, to reverse the negative process somehow.
I think that's quite a good point, actually, because when you start a business as one person, it kind of is you and an extension of you. And then in order to kind of work with that and then put in healthy boundaries in terms of work, and then disassociate yourself from the processes and the clients, and then try and kind of make it into an actual company or an actual business that is not you, I think that's really difficult, especially in the founding stages, where you're doing all the work, you're doing all the pricing, the proposals, the contracts, and then you have to eventually get somebody else on board to do parts of things, and then it's about managing the other person. But then at that point you have to be disassociated to an extent, because otherwise you can't micromanage the person to the level that you would require for them to do the same job as you, and they're never going to be as invested as you are, and then it's easy to get disillusioned and upset, and maybe me as the face of the business is what's causing the issues. And it's actually quite a lot to untangle, I think, when you actually get into it, because there's a lot of self-worth in there, there's a lot of mindset, there's a lot of boundaries, and each one of those things is going to take a long time to untangle. So how do you kind of go about that with people that are entrepreneurial?
I start with what they bring on the moment, because oftentimes it's easy to come and hire a coach around a business issue, and it's like it requires a bit of courage to say, okay, I need help with this. But often the first question that people come to me with is a quite acceptable question for the mind. And then as we go through the work, we realize that it's tied to other things and it's not necessarily related to the professional area. But so it doesn't really matter where we start from, because once you start disentangling things, it has that thing of the ripple effect. It really does exist. So it becomes more fluid in every area because we start working on one aspect. But I think probably probably the biggest one is around trust and boundaries, because if you can trust that your business will still exist if you sleep 2 hours more, if you breathe, if you see your friends, if you turn off your notifications during the weekends or that kind of things, it's very, very scary, because oftentimes people have this kind of belief that if they're not like literally breathing into the business, then the business is going to die if their attention goes away for just 1 second. And if they can trust that, okay, when I take a break, it's not wasted time. It's a moment where I resource myself, and it's a moment where I might have more ideas, more creativity. It's a moment where I nourish myself also with social life. And I think we really learn a lot from each other. When we exchange ideas, that's how we grow. So all those moments are really important. And what they realize when they dare to do this, and we really start with very simple things. I remember one client, he came because he felt that his leadership had been questioned, and then he was very shaken and he didn't know how to feel confident again. And then we realized that it was difficult at home because he was always focused on work, and his wife was like, well, I live with you, but I never see you. We have 2 daughters and you never see them. So it was difficult at home as well. And the day he dared to just stop working 1 hour early, in my opinion, he was still working way too much, but it was really scary for him. So I said, okay, let's just make an experiment, and you're going to stop working because he was working during the weekends. I said, okay, on Sunday, you don't work anymore. And on Saturdays, you stop 1 hour early. And that was a huge challenge for him. Like, really, he was like, I cannot do that. And I was like, well, you try. You don't have to do this for your entire life. You just try for 1 week. And when we meet next week, then we see what happens. And then the week after, he was like, I had a nice Sunday with my family, and my wife started smiling again, and my business still exists. And so we went step by step. And at the end of the program, he had new investors. He had been able to hire someone that he couldn't find before, and he felt legit again in his leadership role. And when he first came, he was telling me, I founded this company, but I'm not sure I'm still the right person to be at the head of it. And then just because he was able to see that he was still worth something, and also because he was able to take this time to nourish himself, like on a global level, then things started to move. And then they are like, it's because everything is always interconnected, then it moves in one area and then it just moves everywhere. And that was just to see him trust that, okay, I can just take a break, I can just enjoy doing nothing. And that was beautiful.
I think that goes for a lot of professionals, though. I mean, the thing is, You can work forever. I mean, there's enough work that you could work 24 hours a day every single day for the rest of your life. And it's about kind of saying, well, you know, I've done as much as I can, and this is enough, and I've worked efficiently, because some part of it is working more efficiently as well, and using the time well and planning it out, and then getting to the weekend and saying, I've earned the time off, I can have the time off, because it's now the work that needed to be done this week has been done. And if it's not getting done and it's completely piling up, then it's an indication that maybe there's something wrong in the flow of the business, or you need to hire somebody else or something like that. But you can't do everything. It's one of these things where people, you know, sometimes start businesses and say, right, I'm going to do a podcast, write a book, I'm going to do this process, I'm going to network, I'm going to join it. And it's like, wow. And then do all the social media and invest in all this stuff. It's not possible just for one person to do that. And it's like, you have to be able to manage your actual life and your time. And when you get to 65, 70, and someone says, you know, who are you? It's not like, well, I am, and then my business name or something. It's like, well, I actually did this and this, and I enjoyed it, and I had a good life. There's two sides to it, but it's so easy just to get swept up in, let's just keep on working all the time, because then it kind of gets rid of, you know, if I've got an issue with self-worth or confidence or whatever, then if I just keep working, I can probably avoid it, and then that will make me feel better. And in the end, it's just, you know, you've worked so hard that there's not a lot left, and it's, you know, what are you showing for it, really? You know, because it's like you say, you can completely destroy your relationship and home life if you carry on like that as well, and then you're not valuing yourself really at all. You're listening to the Kuinua podcast. If you want to ask a question to our experts, just go to kuinuacoaching.com and you will find the link to the podcast where you can leave us a voice message or send us an email, and we will ask your question direct to the expert. That's kuinuacoaching.com. Kuinua Coaching is set up to offer mentoring, coaching and courses in leadership, negotiation and soft skills. If you're interested in finding out more about what Kuinua Coaching has to offer you, you can get in touch via Facebook, Instagram. You can type Kuinua into Google. You can email us on kuinuacoaching@gmail.com, or go to our website at kuinuacoaching.com. That's kuinuacoaching.com.
Yes, because as you say, it's not the validation that comes from the outside, like external validation. It's never going to be enough if we can't feel it. And I think that's where it's really important to use the body, like to teach the body that I am safe and who I am is enough. The simple fact that I exist is a justification for all the good things that I can enjoy. If I had to pay for things, I wouldn't be like, that's not how it works. We're here just to enjoy and to flourish and to do the best with what we have. And I liked it because you said we're doing our best, and it's not doing right or wrong, and that is it's just a difference of words, but in fact it's really a difference of mindset and energy. If you're always doing your best, then you can only be satisfied. It's just accepting that doing my best today is not the same as doing my best tomorrow or this morning as this evening, but it's always investing this energy and say, yeah, did I do the best I can, and if not, why, and how can I improve? But knowing that it doesn't make me a good or a bad person. It's just I am worthy, and then I see how this worthiness is expressed in all my activities.
It is quite interesting in the coaching business as well, because when you're kind of in the middle of having a business, it's good to have somebody that's outside that can look in and tell you, because when you're in the middle of it, you just can't see what it is that's going wrong, and it's stressful, and it might be something really easy. But at the minute, there's kind of so many coaches. There's coaches everywhere. There's like, 15-year-old coaches that have had like 55 years experience. There's all these different types of coaches. So it's very difficult to try and, trust and engage in a coaching industry that is just getting really saturated at the minute. Are there any tips that you can give people if they're looking for a coach? I don't know if it might be for a specific issue, because I think most things, if not everything, come back to mindset anyway. Are there any kind of guidelines you could give people looking to get coaching?
I think the first one is to remember that you have the right to choose, and you must choose, because the coaching works because of the effort that the coach is going to put into it. Of course, you need a good coach in front of you, because this person is going to be a mirror to show you, okay, this is what I see, and to help you realize that, okay, it's bigger than what maybe you thought initially. So it works because of the connection, but y- because ultimately it's the coach who does the work, then it means you have to choose. And what I mean by that, it's not because you've been speaking to one person that you have to stick to that person. I always encourage people to have a conversation and see if they feel comfortable with the person, if they can ask any question. I think if the coach is comfortable with their own experience, they will accept any question. I mean, any decent question, of course. But it's like, if someone asks about my experience, where what did I learn, how I don't know, how I became a coach, all those things. There shouldn't be any friction. You should get a clear answer, and then the idea is to talk with, I would say, maybe three different people. If you have the great feeling from the first conversation, that's fine. Trust this. I think, yeah, it's about trusting the feeling that you have with the person. But if there is any hint of you feel anything that feels a bit wrong, a bit not aligned, a bit that you should say yes to this person because then they will be happy or anything like that, no, it's you have the power. And speaking with one, two, three people, then it helps, it gives you a bit of perspective, and then you choose. And also, um, well, then the starting point could be, okay, do I need a business coach, a relationship coach, a life coach? But then the tools, they are always the same. So it's more about the person, and the simple fact of having those conversations will already start clarifying things. So I think remembering that you have the right to say yes or no, because you're the client and you're choosing who you want to work with. And if you feel that you're in front of someone who's trying to have power or manipulate, then this is no. And then to trust the feeling more than, does this person have a certificate, or how old are they? I think this, it doesn't really matter. And in my experience, I do a lot of peer-to-peer coaching with people who have more or less experience than me, and I always learn so much, just because the other person sees things that I cannot see. So that's why I think, yeah, trust what you feel when you're in conversation with that person.
Now, you mentioned as well about kind of money and sales. Now, we did do a podcast on this in terms of sales, and that came down to mindset as well in terms of um, feeling able to talk about money. And it seems like this kind of taboo about money really affects business people, where they're trying to kind of not undervalue themselves, and you know, really feeling guilty for trying to charge money for services that they're given. And if you kind of try and sell something for someone else, that kind of worry is not there. So how can business owners and founders who are kind of, you know, working in a small team or on their own, look to work in the kind of the sales aspects of things with the money part of it, and be able to do it without kind of these weird emotional feelings popping up and kind of taking them off course a little bit?
Mm. I love this question. I think money mindset work is kind of the most important, because when you start working around money, because it brings so many emotions and it triggers so many things, then you can really go to the root of probably all the challenges. Um, well, one thing could be, because as you said, if we are selling something that belongs to someone else, then it's super easy because there's no emotional attachment to it. So one thing is to try and pretend that it's not my product or my service that I'm selling, it's someone else's, and then to just play like acting this role of I'm selling for someone else. Um, so that's, I would say, that's kind of hiding the problem, but it can work, at least in the beginning, and then maybe it helps become more comfortable. But I think what would be more efficient and more interesting is to understand why does it feel weird to say that I'm selling a service or a product and this is how much it costs, and why do I feel uncomfortable saying this? And that's usually where there is this identification, and often, I mean, people even say it, yeah, I don't know how to sell myself. And it's like, no, it's not about selling yourself, it's about stating the fee for a service. So understanding that me and my service, or me and the service that I provide, are two different things. And so that's the first step. And then it's also to realize that if we believe in what we do, then we know we're doing it to help the other person. If we sell a computer, then it's going to help that person do their work and be connected with other people and everything. And if we sell coaching, it's because we know that it's going to help the person feel better in their life. So it's not about asking for money and feeling uncomfortable with that. It's saying, this is how I can help you. This is how much I charge. And you are free to pay for this or not. But there is no attachment to it, because it's just a statement. And it's not trying to force. It's like when we stop thinking about ourselves, then that's how it becomes fluid. Because we're not thinking about, oh, I need to make that money with that client, but we're saying, okay, how can I facilitate the thing that this person wants? They want to feel a certain way. If I can help them get to that point, then I've done a good job. So how can I do it the best? And it's not about me anymore. It's about you, and how can I make you happier and just make it an enjoyable experience. So when we stop thinking about ourselves, and when we realize that my service and me are two different things, then it becomes much lighter. And then you can also, because the mind likes, yeah, blah blah blah, so much noise from the ego. But then if you just look at, you're going to the groceries and you want to buy, let's say, chocolate, because I'm in Switzerland right now. All right, you look at the different types of chocolate, you look at the price, and then you choose, and you don't feel that emotional thing for Tesco or whatever the brand is, that I should buy chocolate from them, otherwise, I don't know, they will dislike me. Or and the shop doesn't really care if you buy it or not. They want you to be satisfied with your choice. So when we just remove the whole story like this, and the drama around that thing that we feel uncomfortable, and we say, okay, what am I actually doing? I'm doing something good, I believe in it, and my job is to make it easier to someone else to get access to that good thing that I'm doing. And that's it. And then we are out of the way.
Well, on that, we're coming to the end of the episode, and it always goes too quick. We are going to tag everything below, but do you want to tell people where they can find you on the internet?
The best place to find me on the internet is LinkedIn, and it's my first name, Noémie, and my last name, Poget, and that's Noemipoget. Yeah, that's the best place to find me.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. It's as much as we could talk forever on this topic. It's been an absolute pleasure having you with us today.
Thank you. It was really nice to have this conversation with you. And yeah, being an entrepreneur is an interesting journey, worth it.
You've been watching on YouTube or listening on an audio platform to the Kounoua podcast. If you like what you're hearing, then don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any amazing content, and don't forget to leave us a review.
Kounoua Coaching.